Hey everyone, it's Norm Farrar, aka the Beard Guy here, and welcome to another Lunch with Norm, the Amazon FBA and eCom podcast.
Lunch with Norm. Lunch with Norm. Lunch with Norm. Lunch with Norm.
All right, so on today's show, we've got another really good topic. I talked about it in the last podcast. We're talking about white hat strategies for countering black hat attacks. And our guest today is an expert in all of this. I'm going to have to tell you right off the bat, it's not going to be like our usual podcast. Kelsey came down with something, but I came down after I got my vaccine yesterday. And I think I got every side effect there is. So I am going to let between Kelsey and Chris do all the talking today. Before I get into that, I just wanted to send a big thank you out to Global Wired Advisors, a leading digital investment bank focused on optimizing the business sales process. For more information, please visit globalwiredadvisors.com. Kelsey, where are you?
All right, I'm right here.
Good.
Welcome, everyone. So this is a special episode, a special Tuesday bonus episode with our guest, Chris McCabe. So we'll be same as usual. So if you have any questions or comments, please put them over in the comment section. But first, before you do that, please smash those like buttons. Also, our YouTube channel. You can find all of our daily highlights and full episodes over there. If you're ever missing an episode, or if you're checking in on an episode and you come in a little late, it's a great place to go over and get the full episode there. Also, our Facebook group is Lunch with Norm, Amazon FBA and eCommerce Collective. That is our main area for our wonderful Beard Nation. So if you have any questions about an episode, if you want to just hang out and talk to me and Norm or the rest of the Beard community, you can do that there. And if you're interested in more of the Beard, we have our Patreon account. This is our monthly subscription service. This is an area where we're doing guest lessons, AMAs, we're giving away free services, exclusive deals, custom merch. All of that stuff is happening in our Patreon. Just want to give a quick shout out to two new members in our Patreon account, Faye and Min. It's great to have you guys, and thank you for your support. And I think that's about it on my side.
Okay, so this is a special Tuesday episode, and we will be posting this into the YouTube group fairly shortly. And it is live. Where can they catch it live, Kels?
Oh, it's live right now.
Where can they catch it live?
So I guess Facebook, our Facebook page, Lunch with Norm. Also our Facebook group, Lunch with Norm, Amazon FBA and eCommerce Collective. We're also on LinkedIn and YouTube, Norman Farrar is the channel name.
Okay, so if you do have any questions, throw it over into the comment section. Chris McCabe, by the way, I didn't even introduce the guy. Oh my gosh. I mean, he is fantastic. The first time I met him, I knew that this guy knew his stuff. And in fact, if I understand correctly, when you guys were all writing Jeff at Amazon.com, this was the guy that was intercepting them and filtering them to the right department. So he knows his stuff. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of coffee, and enjoy the podcast. Hey.
Hello.
How are you, Chris?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm going to try to mute those cough buttons,
Yeah.
whenever I can. So, oh man, so you get the lucky show where I'm sicker than a dog. But anyway, Why don't we just tell everybody a little bit about yourself, your background, and then we can get right into this. This is a great topic.
Yeah, hopefully some of the seedier elements and shadier behaviors we talk about today won't make you feel sicker than you already are.
It probably will.
It may make some sellers, some listeners feel that way, but the good news, that's the bad news. The silver lining is that there's some good news and there's some better news in terms of abuse prevention and abuse reporting now than, let's say, 12 months ago when it was really bad. My background, as you said, I handled seller performance related account suspension work, listing takedowns, you name it, anything that sellers would have a restriction or a warning sent, policy violations, pretty much performance evaluation and policy enforcement on the Amazon side. And then, of course, I worked on the escalation teams. So not every email that went to Jeff would go to me. I would work on the ones that Jeff sent to my boss. I was on the crew, so Jeff would have had to, I think in almost every case, Jeff would have had to have seen it, added the question mark, and then sent it to my boss's boss, who sent it to my boss, who sent it to the few of us who were reading the true Bezos escalations. The real Bezos escalation was, in theory, defined as seen by Jeff, not just one of his assistants.
So he actually saw these.
The ones that I worked on, again, I don't know if it's every single one. I did several, but I could just, in the old days, scroll up to the top of the thread and it would be Jeff's question mark.
That's interesting. I didn't know.
I know.
I didn't think that would happen.
I should have, if I had known that those were so precious and would become so famous, I would have saved some from screenshots and kept them as souvenirs or something. I never did that. But the work itself was demanding enough. It's worth doing maybe another episode. A lot of abuse escalating is not going to executive seller relations, unfortunately. So maybe we should start with that. You're not sending these to Jeff at Amazon and expecting them. In some cases they will, but you can't expect that they will take action on whichever attack you're experiencing, whichever listing's been taken down. The best you might get out of that is having the listing reinstated, but you won't necessarily see a full abuse investigation on your attacker and what they're up to.
So let's go through some of these black hat attacks and what people can do. So you've seen them all. What do you see as the most popular, or what people should be looking out for?
For the most part, they're trying to get popular ASIN listings taken down, ASIN suspended, trying to get them flagged for policy reasons, back-end keyword abuse, having keywords added to your back-end. That's a typical one that we've seen, I don't know, hundreds, if not thousands of in the last several months. There are some more obvious things that aren't on the back end that you can witness right on your detail page in terms of images that just vanish, or images become something else, or written text is swapped out, something offensive or something deleted. Your bullets are gone. We've seen that quite a bit as well. Mostly they're just trying to get your whole listing suspended, and so that you can't sell and they can sell in your place. So it's competitor on competitor crime.
So if you've got, I know it's not 100% or anything like that, but if you've got brand registry, and I just saw this happen probably about 8 months ago, where it was a $16 million Amazon account. They had a variety of different products. So they were dealing mainly in sleep. They came out and they put just a variety of different, it was a dragon slide. No matter what they did, they could not get this dragon slide off of the listing. They tried everything and nothing happened. What do you do when everything else fails? I
mean, I would have to talk to them about, were they just opening up basic seller support cases? I think that's a lot of what we're talking about here today is don't limit yourself to just contacting support, or don't even waste much time with support. You can go to the catalog team and find out, hey, why is this, dragging on my page? How do I get rid of that? I mean, catalog can be involved in the solution, but don't expect them to be the only part of the solution. So I would have to find out if they just, maybe more details about what they tried, but if they just opened a case with support and nothing happened and they went to the Jeff at Amazon, those are the two most well-known basic fundamental steps that usually don't work. So
a account like that, is it even worth going to support, just knowing what you know, or is it going to a specialist and just having that specialist take a look, spend a few $1,000 and get it done?
I mean, it depends on what we mean by specialist, but you can open a support case. Yeah, I mean, I tell everyone, if you think that this is so quick to fix and so easy that you can open a case and just point to something and say, this is obviously not us, this is obviously wrong. People do this with brand registry tickets too. It's worth opening that ticket just to have a ticket number, case number, so you can reference it later on when you're probably going to have to escalate it. So I'm not stopping people from doing that. I'm just saying don't stay there and just keep going back and forth and chasing your tail, and don't expect miracles from just opening a ticket. It's worth doing because it only takes a few minutes. It's worth calling support and saying, I got to talk to the catalog team and backtrack these listing changes, because sometimes it isn't abuse, right? This is one thing we were going to talk about today, is identifying if it's actually abuse or just like a technical problem. You want to get that ruled out first. So maybe if it's some sort of glitch, they can just fix it for you, right? And it's not necessarily abuse. The problem is sometimes those guys can't identify if it's abuse or not. You have to self-identify it based on other patterns that you identify. So go ahead, take a crack at it with brand registry and see if they can provide any information. Usually you just get a copy and paste, template reply.
All right, very good. Yeah. Now, I already warned you coming onto the show that I was going to have a few problems today. So we've outlined a few questions, and why don't you just start, off by talking about the questions we talked about?
Yeah. So, I mean, in terms of how can you, these are the questions I'm getting. I don't know what I told you before we started. Every 15 minutes, I get a new message. I have to start figuring out, is it a mistake on their part or is it abuse? So I have to figure this out just the way a seller would have to figure it out. You want to go through your flat files. I mean, maybe you've got a typo in there. Maybe you've got something in there that created an error. You can call catalog, everything we just mentioned a moment ago. Maybe they can point out something with your flat files. I mean, maybe there is a mistake in there and that's what's causing it. So try to rule out the technical question before you get. Some people that come to us are like, we've already done all of that. We're not going to spend more time. We've been attacked 10 times already. It's the same seller. We even know who the seller is. They've left us bad reviews. Sometimes they come to us and they've already done that research, which is great. It means they don't have to spend much time trying to figure that part out. They know it's abuse. The question they want us to answer is, where do I go? And I always say, hold on, it's not just the where. Sometimes they've already written it, Jeff. You don't want to put the cart before the horse. You want to have all your ducks in a row. Generally speaking, if you submit abuse reports and you haven't written them out well, or it's all over the place, confusing, you've got jargon in there, you've got typos, whatever, it's written poorly, you're giving them the incentive to ignore it. And that makes it 10 times harder for them to act on it. Obviously, if they've decided to ignore it, they won't act. It makes it 10 times harder for you to get their attention back on it, because every time you submit them mush that they can't sift through and get any meaningful data or factual info from, every time that happens, the next person's less likely, they just don't have the motivation to go back through and say, well, these guys skipped taking action on this, but they were wrong and we should do something about it now. Get your ducks in a row before you submit anything, I would say. And why is that? I guess the short answer is because they're drowning in this stuff. Abuse and attacks between competitors are constant. And the more they're drowning in it, the longer it takes them to reply. The longer it takes them to reply, the more incentive they have to hurry these investigations or even skip some of them to catch up. It's almost like we're describing a flywheel effect, right? The more they skip things to catch up, and the longer it takes them to reply, the more stuff they miss. Well, the more stuff they miss, the more that encourages black hats to attack you and to hurt your brand, because they think Amazon isn't going to take any kind of action against them for doing it. So it just encourages the bad actors. The more Amazon struggles to get their act together, the more black hats are encouraged. And this is something I think Amazonians, that at least some that I've interacted with, don't understand. The longer it takes them to respond, the more days that listing is down and the more revenue your competitor is getting over you, right? So that incentivizes them financially. If you report the abuse and Amazon just sweeps it to the side, throws it in the trash, that means your competitor also is emboldened by the fact that Amazon may have reviewed the content and decided not to act for whatever reason, maybe just because they didn't really read it. That emboldens them too. So the problem becomes a problem where you're being attacked, you're losing money, but Amazon's perpetuating this problem themselves because they're unwilling to put the right people and the right resources behind the solution. This is a big reason I'm doing a workshop at Prosper with Leah McCabe this coming month. You're going to Prosper, right, Norm? Are you?
That's why I got my vaccine.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Now I am going to Prosper.
Yes. Awesome. So So why are we even, why is that a topic? Why are we even covering it today or at Prosper or any other place? Because this is rampant, right? And now it's kind of become public. Amazon knows that people know what's going on. Amazon knows that people are out there successfully gaming their systems, tricking their teams, messing with their tools. What's also public is that Amazon's response has been really lethargic and scattered and poorly implemented and disorganized. And the fraudster mentality is to test, stress testing things to see how much they can get away with. And if the message that comes back is you can get away with lots of stuff if you know how to do it, then they'll spend all their time fine-tuning their methodology. So Amazon knows that, and we know that, and sellers know that. So today's message is be prepared on your side. Don't expect to just show something to Amazon and say, hey, this terrible thing's happened to me. Not really sure how, not really sure why, not really sure who. But you're Amazon, you've got data, you figure it out. Go look in the tools. Would that it were that easy, right? And maybe in the future, in 2-3 years, you can do something similar to that, but that's not the way it works now. Now it's like you're almost like an attorney preparing a case to go to court, and you have to win the case, and you have to convince the judge, the jury, and everyone in that courtroom to make them willing to, let's say, the verdict is on your side. And then also beyond that, not to make it even more complex, you're going to court almost every time with an appeal, with an escalation, every time this happens. Amazon doesn't have a good system in place to help you protect yourself in the future by flicking a switch or by pushing one button or talking to one person. Right now, it doesn't work that way. You have no real ability to protect your brand through brand registry from unauthorized changes from outside parties.
So when you get, I just want to make this clear. If you get brand registry and you're using a flat file and you're uploading everything, does that not protect your listing? I was going to say, if don't make me think twice. It's too hard today.
I know. I would say you should sync up with the API and load up your flat files multiple times a day. And that's a concept that is not mine.
What?
I've heard it from sellers. Yeah, so I'm not a pioneer of this concept. I've got people overwriting, because somebody can overwrite you on your own branded listings. These are the loopholes that are being exploited. And there's actually multiple ways to do that. But, we don't want to necessarily discuss all the ways black hats are attacking as much as we want to say how to protect yourself today. Reload your flat files to overwrite any illicit content. Now, if somebody overwrites your, if they add back-end keywords that say illicit terms or illegal words, technically you would think that just gets flagged immediately, right? They start sending you messages like this is a restricted product. I can't tell you how often, the scripts cycle through and capture these words and flag these listings and suspend them. That's internal info. But to be on the safe side, we've got people who are doing it. Some people are doing it every 4 to 6 hours. Definitely do it while you sleep, as long as you know that you won't do something that creates, like I said, a technical problem or a glitch of your own making because you failed, either a technical error because your flat files didn't sync up to their API or some other reason. So you don't want to, self-inflicted have a problem. But people can mess. Brand registry does not protect your brand from changes to back-end keywords or to detail page content, which is live on the site for all the world to see. It doesn't do that. Amazon doesn't have a way to help you protect your brand 100% from changes.
So I'm curious about this.
Yeah.
I have 2 questions actually. So filling out as many fields on the flat file, would that help?
It looks, from our many abuse case, scenarios that we've gone over, it looks like having empty fields is part of the problem. Yes.
Right.
Because people are putting in, a lot of people had words like drugs, like opioid or opiate, or marijuana, like just drug terms put in there. So of course the message that the seller got when the listing was suspended was, according to the DEA, this is a controlled substance. It says it right in the message. So you would think that, knowing, as Amazon does, we know they know about this, that they would, rush to your defense, maybe not rush, but they would come to your defense eventually with some sort of solution so that you can lock your listings down from these types of changes. They haven't. That's why this is such a, omnipresent problem. So it's the vacant field. It took us a while to figure that. I mean, maybe not a while. It took us a couple of tries to figure that out. Word that we got back either from catalog reps or, it might have been account managers and so forth that we were dealing with on those cases months ago, maybe even a year ago, was, yeah, you had some vacant fields there and somebody inserted some content in there just to get you flagged. We're kind of, you're surprised to an extent, it sounds like. We're kind of in shock that we're 12 to 14 months since we found out about this, maybe longer, if I go back to beginning of 2020, and no one's really figured this out on the Amazon side of things. I would think you would get a Sev1 ticket rolling, Sev1 being like, all hands on deck, call everybody in until we figure this out. We have to close this loophole, whatever it is. Have they partially closed it? I think so. I don't know. They haven't closed it. That's the problem. And whenever anyone talks about, hey, you're telling people how to attack us, don't say this stuff. Listen, the black hats figured this out a long time ago. Maybe there's some, amateur black hats that didn't know about all the loopholes. The sophisticated, savvy ones knew about this a long time ago. Info is leaked from inside the company that shouldn't have been shared publicly. That's one reason black hats were aware of it. Some of them, I think, were just stress testing, trial and error, and figured this out. I'm sure it was a combination of the two. We'll never really know for sure unless we get, a podcast going with one of the black hat perps that was actually doing this stuff back then. But 2020 to 2021, we still aren't close enough to the solution in terms of like the Amazon side of thing. So,
are there any? I'm kind of curious of what you've seen recently that's happening.
A lot of people know. Here's another kind of commonly known attack is the pesticide problem, trying to make it look like you're selling something that has a pesticide in it. This was a lot of sellers didn't realize that they were including language in their listing that did properly get flagged for, at least the way they constituted the algorithm, because they had words like antifungal or antibacterial, or they had certain keywords in there that Amazon deliberately did flag because they thought it might be a pesticide. So those weren't abuse attacks. Those are just sellers who didn't understand that they couldn't include those terms without risking the pesticide flag, even if they didn't have an item that had anything to do with pesticides. Having that language in there was enough to get it flagged. Under Amazon's methodology, those were correct. Those weren't false positives necessarily. The abuse was people inserting terms into the keywords, inserting terms either into the listing itself or into the backend keywords that used language consistent with pesticide products. So those were abusive attacks. And it took us some time to figure out, hey, we need to look at your flat files, or we need to hear from you what your listing shows. Sometimes people didn't have flat files and you have to get a, category listing report. Either way, we had to look and see, did you put these terms in yourself? And they would say no. If they said no, we would know that it was an abusive attack, and we reported it as such. There's ways to report it. You can show them your most recent flat file, assuming you have flat files. I'm going to assume at this point everyone's using flat files, and if they're not, they should, especially for this reason.
Can you explain, just in case there's some new listeners here, what's a flat file?
Just don't manually load one at a time your listings. Flat files are I guess what we're calling them spreadsheets. You're using the flat file to sync up your listing content to the Amazon's API. Maybe you hired a company to do it for you. Maybe you're not doing it yourself. But this is, if you were never using flat files and you've been loading listings one at a time or doing it manually, never do that again, because this is the best reason to have a flat file that I can think of. You would have to overwrite their content with your content. That's not, if somebody messes with 42 or 4,200 of your listings, that's a mess. this is the way to solve it. It's the automation that you need to use. So the software you need to use to control your listing content. So you can show them your most recent flat file as part of the abuse report and say, hey, look, this was the most recent upload that I did. It doesn't have any of these terms. I didn't add those terms. So it's not just you telling them that you didn't do it. You've got some degree of proof, something that they can backtrack and look at. Catalog, unfortunately, has some ability, but also some trouble backtracking listing changes. It was April 17th at 2:21 p.m. Something happened. Was that you? And you say yes or no. Some ability to do that, maybe, but for the lion's share of cases we see, all they see is that something bad happened to you. Obviously, they recognize that you didn't do it. If it's something, that's truly terrible that you would not have put on your listing or in your flat files, and they try to help you change it. It's just that sometimes there's a big lag. Time goes by, and we end up getting hired to do escalations when Amazon doesn't take any action.
I forgot to mention that you have a giveaway. You want to just get into that and describe what you're giving away? It's a great giveaway.
Yep. It's a digital ticket to the conference we're doing here in Boston in September. So I don't know how many of your listeners, attendees are in the Northeast. Obviously, last time we did an event in New York, we got people from all over the country. It's the Seller Velocity Conference in September. It's going to be September 23rd. It's a digital attendee ticket. So if you're unable to come in person, you'd be able to attend virtually. We always do for Seller Velocity. We always do in person, food, drink, so forth, speakers, breakout sessions, and then virtual attendees for people who can't show up. So we understand that not everyone's vaccinated yet. We understand that it's hard to fly across the country sometimes. Virtual attendees are just as welcome as in-person ones. So more info coming soon in the Seller Velocity Conference. We're getting ready to do our first trip in the post-COVID era of going to Vegas for the Prosper Show. So I'm trying to get there and present there, do the workshop, and then we're going to have some great speakers here in Boston. So that will be free attendance for one lucky winner.
That's fantastic. So hashtag Wheel of Kelsey, or if you'd like to tag two people, then that'll be an extra entry for you. And also, let's just talk about that workshop, because the workshop you're doing at the Prosper Show, what day is it, and what are you going to be talking on?
That's July 13th, so it's the day before the conference starts. Prosper historically has the workshop day the day before. It's, 8:30. It's a 2.5 hour event. I'm pretty sure it's right at 8:30. It might be 8:20 or something like that, but it's morning instead of afternoon like last year and the year before. The workshop is intended to prepare people to protect their accounts and their businesses and their brands, if you're a private label brand, against abuse and against these black hat tactics. So we're going to go into a lot of detail into how you identify abuse, typical avenues of attack, but also how to make Amazon care that you're suffering, and to get them involved. Let's say, not just reading your abuse report and considering it, but to get them involved in the solution, because the way it works these days is lots of hands-on and lots of nitty-gritty research and details on your side, written up the right way, presented the right way, sent the right place, before you can expect them to help you out. You really have to motivate them. Part of the motivation is you get them some good info and, do it intelligently, and it starts there. But we're going to fill easily 2.5 hours of workshop time that morning, just talking about abuse identification, abuse prevention, abuse reporting, and how to escalate it when Amazon turns a blind eye, either because it's taking them so long to address it that it's just the same as ignoring it. Days turn into weeks, then you've got a real problem. You have to push it elsewhere. It's a very relevant, hot topic right now, because Amazon has been so slow and so haphazard in their response to the numerous, almost limitless abuse reports that are coming in. So.
Right. I do have a question. This is this is something that happens, I wouldn't say daily. I would probably say weekly, or at least every other week. But I'll have clients that'll be looking, and they'll say, "Look, oh, can I put a puppy in my primary image? Oh, can I use these words like guaranteed or something like that in my because every other competitor is doing it."
Yeah.
And I'll hear like there's a list of about 20 or 30 things. There's probably a list of hundreds of things. But I'll say, "Oh, you can't use that language." But everybody else is. I can't use that image. Well, everybody else is. They have a border around it. How, and they don't, and I guess the main thing is, and guys, you got to just remember, I got one hell of a cold right now. Anyways, what I'm trying to say is that they're not getting suspended, but do you see it as being weighted? If you had an equal listing and one had borders and language that used 100% guarantee or claims that haven't been caught yet, does Amazon see it? Can the algorithm pick it up? Does it say, oh?
Sometimes it's picked up. Sometimes it's not. I mean, you can always report those people for PDP abuse because that content shouldn't be there. And never mind unfair competition with you, they could be misleading buyers. I mean, it's a bad buyer experience, right? This is what Amazon really cares about first above everything else. If it's a bad buyer experience, then frame it that way. Don't just say, like, we're complaining because these guys are winning sales from us. That's kind of understood.
Yeah.
And you can't really separate out with data how much they're winning over you anyway. I mean, if they're winning the buy box and they've got BS content, then you should flag it and report it. PDP abuse is a well understood concept inside Amazon now. You shouldn't be getting reps. You shouldn't be getting anyone in policy enforcement who's like, what? What do you mean? Oh, I don't understand. I don't see it. No, using violations of the style guide is against the rules. People using all caps in their listing, that's against the rules. It breaks the style guide. But it's also a bad buyer experience. More noticeable, attention grabbing, sure. Is it every seller's fault that they might hire some listing optimization company that doesn't know the rules or doesn't care what the policies are? I mean, Amazon thinks it's your fault if you hired them, but it's understandable that happens. Policy enforcement will always be inconsistent. Maybe not always 10 years from now, but right now it will be, for the next couple of years, it'll be inconsistent, which means you're always going to see other people violating these policies. It doesn't mean you should join them and do it too, because anyone could report you for that page. Amazon will warn you. They're not going to say, oh, there's 13 other people here that weren't named in the PDP report. I'm going to take action on them too. They might do that, but we know how pressed for time they are. Do we really bet that they're going to take action on those other 13 people? Probably not. They're probably going to go with you since you were the one who was named. So ideally, all of this would just be filtered out, right? Back in the day when I was working there, we had this constant report of their logo's too big. Like their storefront logo has, like it'd be blinking or something. It would have animation in the logo, and that was banned. Or the logo is simply too big. You would think that Amazon would make it so that you couldn't even, their tools wouldn't even allow it to go over a certain size, right? It would just be sort of like it wouldn't work and you'd have to shrink it back down. Nope. We reacted based on the reports we got and we saw, yeah, the logo's too big. I'm going to send a warning for that. That's really how this works. Right now it's reaction-based, it's reports-based. They will take action on PDP abuse, not every time. Sometimes you report it and nothing happens. Of course, you have to do it again, do it a different way. I mean, that's going to be true for a while too. But just because you see all these other people doing this stuff doesn't mean that it's allowed. I think that's a fundamental misunderstanding people have. Just because it's live on the site, therefore it's allowed. That's never been true. And it's only true for as long as that listing isn't recognized or noticed by a policy enforcement team member. So,
one of the other areas that I hear about quite often, people will say, oh, I've got a smear campaign going against me, and I'll take a look at their listing and they've got a bad review or two that have come in, and it's just a bad review. Somebody didn't like your product.
Right.
But when somebody has a legit smear campaign, or you start to see an increase in 1 stars and 2 stars when it's not consistent, what can people do? I've had horrible times I've had some get removed, but my experience is most of the time, even if I provide the best information, it really doesn't get the review removed.
Yeah, I mean, review removal, somewhat of a long conversation, but we've had some success lately having clients going into Facebook groups that are notorious for fake positive reviews or fake negative reviews services. And they've sometimes found their competitor in there. They identify them. And then they report the Facebook group to Amazon, as you probably heard last week, the week before. Amazon's really interested in finding these nasty social media groups and services and all sorts of parties out there looking to game or fake the review system. So start showing stuff like that to Amazon, because you might even knock your competitor out simply because they're involved in one of these groups. I know that's a minority of cases, but fake reviews, you're looking for patterns of language. Make it a project to research it and see if it's likely that they hired a service to do it. That's using, most of these services are using crude kind of copy and paste type tools. And so you're detecting those types of patterns. Obviously, if you've got legit negative reviews on your product, you want to do a removal order, pull some product out and inspect it and see what some of these people are talking about. There could be legit complaints. The knee-jerk reaction is often, I'm under attack. And then sometimes we're like, okay, but what did you see in return comments or voice of the customer? Is it similar to what you saw in these reviews? How many complaints have you had from what look like legit buyers? And they'll be like, well, yeah, we have had those kinds of complaints. Well, maybe this isn't an attack then. Maybe this is somebody. You could have an attacker who's taking advantage of already posted negative feedback and product reviews that were from real buyers. I'm not saying that doesn't happen too, but don't have the knee-jerk reaction like it's all fake, it's all abuse. I know who it is, or I don't know who it is, but it's obviously, nothing valid, so I'm going to complain to Amazon about it. If they start to see that you're blowing smoke and you've got no evidence or no info backing up that allegation, and you just expect them to kind of, bite the hook and take the bait and run with it from there, they're going to throw it away. So
I've seen a few sneaky ways that these guys are doing it now. One of it might be they give a 3 or 4 star review, but they put some word in there that would just I don't know, choke to death or something like that.
Right. Health hazard, safety hazard.
Yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And also, when I go and check profiles, a lot of time I'll see if there's a 1 star or 5 star review, and just kind of look around. You'll probably notice. I know with my soap, I looked at this one review. She had about 20, 30 different reviews, and typical, mom, dad reviewer. It was written in about a grade 7 language, maybe even less. And all of a sudden she was talking about the molecular structure of lye on my soap product. And I'm sitting there going, oh, come on. Something's wrong here.
It's a good time to report potential reviews abuse. Right now the subject's so hot that you might hit pay dirt when you otherwise wouldn't, simply because they are willing to look and see and spend a little extra time looking to see if there is a pattern of abuse, and maybe there are some additional reviews that you wouldn't have gotten deleted any other time this year that they will delete now, because this is a big deal now. Reviews abuse, I've talked about it before, it's always a big deal, but there are periods where it's like kind of peaking or cresting. The wave hasn't kind of crashed down yet, and they're really dedicating true resources to this. So now's a good time to report it. Their interest level is high. Now isn't a great time because everyone, and their brother, mother, and uncle are reporting at the same time. Volume of contacts are up as well. But in every other way, so that's the bad news. The good news, in every other way, Amazon's extremely interested. The blog post that they put up, I think it was 7 days ago, didn't really take responsibility for Amazon having any of the fault here. They mostly blamed third-party services and social media. But the fact that they wrote that article and put it up with some acknowledgement that they're kind of tacitly agreeing that maybe 20, 30, 35% of the reviews on there aren't legit. It doesn't say that in there, but that's kind of how I'm reading between the lines. That's a big deal. That's a huge acknowledgement from the company. and they've already tripled. I don't know, that was maybe 6 months ago. They tripled the size of the team, PRA, product review abuse. So this is a good time to be reporting this stuff. It's a good time anyway, because you want to try to do whatever you can do before Q4 rolls in, when they're really swamped.
Right.
Prime Day comes and goes, and we're pretty much at the end of it. Next few hours, June, July, this is going to be a good time to report these patterns. And maybe they will put a little bit of extra effort into tracking down some of these things. But like you said, try to find the reviewer. Sometimes you can nail the reviewer and they'll ban that person. I've had a lot of people come in through my website who are like, I'm a reviewer and I got banned. Do you do reviewer reinstatement? Reviewer suspended. And I have a little conversation with them, well, what kind of reviews were you doing? Most of them I can kind of tell were probably incentivized to do at least some of what they were doing, maybe not all of it. Obviously, we don't help or work with people like that. They were legitimately banned. So that's reviews abuse. Page abuse, MPA is marketplace abuse, the detail page, back-end keyword abuse. If you don't report these things now, let's just say you've clearly identified that it's abuse, not a technical error or a human error on your side. Report those early enough, and if you don't do it now, then that emboldens your attacker to do it more times, more ASINs, more ways. They think that you don't know how to defend yourself. And it's kind of like, if there's blood in the water, that brings more fish or more sharks. If they start sniffing around and they think you're just opening seller support cases, I mean, I'm glad you brought up Prosper Show again, because this is like one of the big reasons we're doing the workshop is like, don't put this off. You don't necessarily have to hire us to do it right away, but develop your own strategy, make sure it works. You're not just getting your listing reinstated and saying, whew, that's done, and hoping it never happens again. Because we work with brands who go through this 10 or 12 times. After the 10th time, maybe your attacker's like, maybe we need a better target. These guys are pretty good at solving this. And you can solve it quicker hopefully after each subsequent attack. So by the 7th one, the people at Amazon should see that you've been attacked 6 times. Obviously, they don't have to spend a lot of time figuring out what the hell's going on. You're clearly being attacked by the same competitor or different competitor, but in the same way over and over, and they'll help you fix it sooner. But do you really want to have to fix it 10 times without reporting the abuse? Do you want to just get the listing back up and not go to abuse prevention teams saying, hey, we've got something going on here, and there's a certain amount of data you have that we can't see, and you guys have teams dedicated to this now that you didn't have 2 years ago. What are those guys doing to help protect us, right? Because you don't have the ability to just lock down your listing through brand registry. So
what about, I don't know if you ever heard Elena Saras talk about why she got into Shopify, but for 2 years in a row on the major holidays, she would get copyright infringements. How do you fight that? Here it is. It could be around Prime Day. It could be around November. And all of a sudden, one of your competitors call in and say, hey, I have a copyright infringement.
Yeah.
It's not legit.
Yeah, and you can counter those, right, with a DMCA counter notice, which takes 10 days. Amazon takes 10 days to process or to reinstate your listing. Unfortunately, everyone Black Hat knew that you would just get generic copy and paste messaging saying, we have 10 days to process your DMCA counter notice. So copyright was an easy way for them to attack. And also I found out that Amazon's SOP, the investigator SOP for copyright infringement and enforcement leaked and got into the hands of people who shouldn't have had it, who read through it and said, this is a great way to attack people. So that's a different kind of problem when information and material from inside the company is leaking to the outside, because that's just somebody being handed a blueprint for how to attack competitors. And that's a truly terrible thing. That's why copyright, I think you're referring to last November in Black Friday, Cyber Monday. I don't know, there were thousands of listings that were removed because of fake copyright infringements.
Correct.
We don't see it as often now. I didn't see it over Prime Day weekend so much, which makes me think that maybe things are a little bit better. But that's a problem, that first of all, that information and material that policy enforcement teams only should be looking at is viewable outside of those walls, number one. Number two, it's a problem because sellers disputing those fake copyright complaints we're getting copy and paste bogus responses from infringement teams inside Amazon, which basically told the world, we don't take this seriously, or we take it seriously as long as we don't have to throw extra bodies at the problem, or we take it seriously as long as we don't have to improve or upgrade our tools to fix it. That's just waving a blinking sign at all the black hats saying, come and get it, do whatever you want to do. And Amazon's going to, roll back on their heels and let it happen, which is unfortunate.
What are your thoughts on, we've had brands that have had problems, and we've just enrolled them in the transparency program.
Mm-hmm.
Is that another way that you think would just help out not having to put up with this copyright infringement issue?
I mean, obviously you need to have there's a couple of problems around anything IP related. A lot of sellers are self-diagnosing IP related problems and they have no experience with IP.
Right.
Or they have a business attorney who isn't an IP trained or an IP expert attorney look at it and give them kind of a basic business opinion that doesn't really encompass Amazon strategy, which most of the lawyers in the Amazon space don't understand how to escalate things, don't understand the Amazon side of strategy and the appeals process. And B, you need to understand how to protect yourself, how to set up. I mean, there are still brands selling their items that haven't been trademarked yet, and they're not even in brand registry. They're not even at the first rung of that ladder, which basically means come hijack me. That's all that is you're waving a sign at all these other sellers and competitors to say, my trademark's not registered, but I'm selling some product. I'm not in brand registry, so attack all you want. We're at the point now where you shouldn't be selling anything unless you've got trademark registration and you're at least in brand registry. You're never going to be able to protect that brand or that listing in the future if you don't at least have brand registry. So they haven't gone through the fundamental steps either on their own or with an IP attorney before they started selling the brand of the product. So their setup wasn't properly configured. Once you've set yourself up for that kind of failure, you are going to be hit with those fake copyright complaints and have trouble showing the right documentation or showing Amazon enough for their investigators to at least fundamentally understand that you're the copyright holder and you're being accused of violating somebody else's copyright with no basis. I mean, images, obviously, copyright your images. Mm-hmm. A certain amount of text you can copyright or not. There are IP claims for somebody copied my listing, every word on it. They've copied my content, and Amazon will honor some of those copyright complaints. If a competitor out there copies your whole listing, they'll take action on those. But
what about plans of action? Is there, without getting into wording,
mm-hmm.
Or language, is there a proper way to set up your plan of action to submit it to Amazon? I've heard that if you do it a certain way, you'll get better results. It'll be just better laid out. They can go through it and they can say yay or nay or go to the next level.
Yeah, I mean, if they ask you for a POA, some people are submitting POAs without being asked for one. I've noticed lately. I'm not sure where that came from. Account Health Services is there to at least help clarify. Sometimes it's unclear whether you need to submit a POA or not. Some people who are planning on doing it themselves, sometimes you get quality info from account health reps. Sometimes it's inconsistent or misleading. That's kind of one place to go to figure out the basics of POA writing, as opposed to things like our membership or talking to us about it. But I think you're talking about the 3-box format where they say the root causes, and then there's a second box, which is the immediate steps you took to resolve the problem. And the third box is, future prevention steps. It's not so much about format. It's a lot of people are getting the you didn't give us enough detail response. And then I'll look at their POA and I'll see, oh, it's because you didn't have any details here. So their short answer would be make sure you're giving some A, B, C in terms of one after the other steps in terms of how you're going to fix something. You're not just making promises that are vague or general or unsubstantiated and letting them float in air as a statement. A lot of people are filling these with statements. They're doing the bullets and they're doing, they need real action items like we're going to do this and maybe even a little bit about how you're going to do it so that they can see that there's detail in the implementation of your POA. If they think you're just throwing words at them, they usually ask for more details. So.
Oh. All right. Very good. All right. Anything else? I'm sure there's tons that you'd like to talk about.
Let's just do questions
All right.
through the top of the hour.
All right. Well, we
Yeah.
got tons of questions coming in, so we'll be a little busy.
And if I'll make myself available if we run out of time. People, it's e-commerce, Chris. We've got a contact form there. Obviously, people can email me and I'll respond.
Very good.
Okay, great. Okay, first question from Naomi. How much does it depend on the sales velocity of the seller who you want to report? Most of our competitors' main pick is not on a white background. Also, their seller feedback looks like it's copy-paste from each review.
Depend on the sales velocity. I think you're asking, are larger sellers protected? Some larger sellers have account managers, but policies for everybody. So if you're ignored when you report abuse by a competitor who's a large seller, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're protected because they're a high revenue seller. It may just be ignored the same way it would be if you were reporting a lower level seller. We're working with people. If people are hiring us to do this for them, it means usually that they've tried it a few ways themselves and it didn't work. So don't assume that that's the reason. It's possible that they've got an account manager that reached out to them because policy enforcement guys, annotated their account accordingly. And they said, hey, you guys have to knock this off. We saw evidence that there's review manipulation here. It doesn't necessarily mean that the reviews were deleted, of course, that should have been deleted. So you want to just keep the pressure on and follow back up. But sometimes things are just missed. Your content went to the right team. Maybe you even wrote it the right way and it was just resolved without somebody looking at it. It's an unfortunate byproduct of Amazon tools and teams being a little, disorganized right now. So
great. From Ankit, how do we report black hat sellers who use free gift insert card funnels to get so many positive reviews with photos and videos in short times that creates unfair competition? Yeah.
The insert topic is a huge deal right now. We're hearing from sellers, if not daily, then a certain number of them a week, who have inserts in their packaging, which is a real problem. It's not like a messaging sequence that you can just turn off. You've got FBA inventory that has the inserts in there that Amazon doesn't like. So that means removal orders. It means a lot of pain and a lot of cost. But reporting inserts, you're doing a test buy from your competitor. You're taking a screenshot or a photo of the insert and you're reporting that to Amazon. Again, this is an excellent time. I can't think of a better time in the last 2 years or 3 maybe to report non-compliant inserts than right now. So if you've got that order and you've got that insert, stay on it and keep reporting it because Amazon's extremely interested in suspending sellers with illicit or non-compliant inserts right now.
Okay, let's touch on that for a second.
Yeah.
So if you have an insert and you're asking somebody to join a loyalty program or go to your Shopify page or go to whatever, this is exactly how I understand it. So I can put, as long as my Amazon product, which is sold at Walmart and which is sold by Chewy and all these others, as long as the insert says, oh, go back to my Shopify and do whatever, then that's fine. Not saying, oh, buy a product and and leave us a review or something like that and get a free product. I'm talking about going back, trying out a product, like let's say it's soap. It's a soap product that's not there, and you get a 15% discount or whatever it is by going over to Shopify and buying the product.
Yeah. So, and I probably should have said this before. One thing that's changed over the last couple of years is the idea of, oh, well, we only asked for an honest review, or we only asked for a unbiased review. That has no meaning anymore, that whole phrase. Whether you did or didn't do that doesn't matter anymore. Obviously, if you're asking for positive only reviews, I think everyone understands that's a problem. It doesn't actually matter to Amazon, based on the suspension work we've done, whether or not you ask for a review. If you're starting to give things away and you're doing gift cards and you're offering steep discounts or free product, whether or not you ask for a review doesn't seem to matter. They assume you're going to net mostly positive reviews out of that, and they don't like it. That's how we read it, not necessarily, from sit downs with PRA ourselves, but from the suspension work we're doing. And what do they want in the plan of action? The good news is you can talk to account health reps. And a lot of times, if you push them enough, at least, they'll give you the information like, yeah, we saw what was on the insert and we didn't like it, or they didn't, Seller Performance didn't like it. Or they'll just specifically say you're using giveaways. And we've been on calls with sellers who say, yeah, but I didn't ask for a review, or I didn't ask for a positive review. And they came back, with, well, this is why your POA was denied. It's because that doesn't matter anymore. And I know that's a bit of an earthquake for a lot of people, but now that they're suspending for all these inserts, this is what it looks to us why it's happening, is because whether or not you ask for a positive review, an honest review, or any kind of review, you can ask for a review. That hasn't changed. You can still ask for a review. You can't ask for reviews and give stuff away, or you can't give stuff away and assume that because you haven't asked for a review, you're on the safe side of things. Because you could net 200 5-star reviews overnight simply from giving away product.
Kels?
Okay.
And I like Ankit's comment or question, we're guilty until proven innocent. I saw that pop up.
Yeah.
You're a sharp guy to point that out, because that's 100% the universe we're floating around in. Amazon is a guilty until proven innocent ecosystem. And fairness or debating it is, if you've got spare time to contemplate those things, then great. But the reality is you are selling in a guilty until proven innocent system.
Okay. So it looks like maybe we have time for one question.
I can do a couple more. Yeah.
Okay, great. From Gurdeep, if you're being attacked, does it make sense to pause advertising until it's fixed?
Advertising is a great kind of sidebar conversation. I have seen some ads abuse, but not a ton. It's not my area of expertise. So my short answer would be yes, but maybe you could show me some examples and I could get you to the right person. Just a quick aside. I mean, we are seller performance and policy enforcement experts and abuse reporting experts. We don't do everything. We're not like a, everything goes agency. So I'm happy to direct people to the best expert I know if it's something we don't handle.
Okay.
Yeah.
From Jahanzib, what can one do if suddenly we started to receive a barrage of negative reviews, obviously from our competitors, and we're not able to ID the competitor? Anything we can do to protect ourselves from these kinds of attacks?
In terms of trying to prevent those reviews from coming in the first place, that's kind of an Amazon job, and maybe in the future that'll be something they're better at. But since you can expect that this will happen, you're just doing pattern detection. You're looking for the reviewers themselves to find out if there's anything in the reviewers you can identify as bad behavior and try to get the reviewer knocked off. If the reviewer gets banned, all the reviews go with it. So that's one way to get a review deleted. Otherwise, you're looking for similarities in the language. I know this is a bit of a weak or poor answer. Unfortunately, right now, you can't just assume that it's obvious to Amazon that you're under attack. You have to start identifying some patterns, at least within the reviews. But like I said, sellers are getting really creative. Sometimes they're finding Facebook groups that somebody mentions, maybe not you or your product, but they mention a technique that is netting a bunch of fake negatives against competitors, and it's right there in Facebook, and you can report the Facebook group to Amazon. I mean, as of last week, Amazon's on record for acknowledging that social media is a major part of this problem. So sometimes you can do a little research and sleuth out a group that your attacker might belong to based on the methodology.
I had Dima Kubrick on, and he got this question over. He gets this question all the time, but how do you increase? We all do. How do you increase reviews? How do you increase reviews?
Yeah.
The best way to increase reviews is to have an awesome product and an awesome customer experience.
Right.
If that person gets your product, loves your product, they're going to leave you a great review. And you're going to, if you get 4 to 7% in your review rate, that's awesome. That's kind of what you're looking at. If you're looking at a spike of 15% or 20%, you're definitely going to get flagged.
Right. And, the conversation, I think this is the year, and we're addressing some of this in the content for the Seller Velocity Conference in September here in Boston. what kind of videos of your product are you making? What's your off Amazon marketing looking like? Are you focused just on reviews? And I understand reviews matter to the algorithm and for sales rank, and I'm not saying, but just imagine a future where reviews aren't weighted as heavily as they are now. What are you doing to drum up off Amazon interest in the product? What are your video representations? What are your tutorials like on YouTube? There are marketing experts, far more advanced than I am on this topic that I think are finally understanding that it's not just a reviews driven universe in the future. Maybe today it is, but in the future, think about where you can cultivate positive, experiences with the product that will get people more likely to search for your brand and your product on Amazon, right? Without just ads or giveaways or so forth. That's a marketing. I know that's not an easy marketing problem to fix, but it is in its essence a marketing problem. So.
Okay. So I think it's about that time, Kels?
For the wheeler questions.
For the wheel.
Okay. All right. Let's do the Wheel of Kelsey. Again, if we did miss our question from you, you can contact Chris with the website that I'm going to send right now, eCommerceChris.com.
Norm knows where to find me.
I do.
As we're pulling this up, Simon did have a question about rebates. What shade of gray are rebates?
If you're 100% rebating, then you need to stop that when I finish my sentence, which I assume is what Simon's doing. Yeah. This whole idea of not incentivizing a review, but PayPal payback after the review's left or later in the cycle, again, same as the honest or unbiased review. These are concepts that went out the window in 2018, 2019. I understand enforcement is lagging behind that. But if you sat down with these guys in 2019 and asked them, they would have said, whoever's out there doing rebates should have stopped doing that a long time ago. So.
Okay,
Yep.
So here we go. Wheel of Kelsey.
It's time for the Wheel of Kelsey.
Okay, everyone. Thank you for entering the contest. I believe I've added everyone. This is for digital attendance tickets to the Seller Velocity Conference. So here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Oh, wow.
All right.
Okay.
Right
You got
on
that?
the line.
Guten Tags got it.
All right.
All right, so Guten Tags, this is from YouTube, so please contact me at k@lunchwithnorm.com, and I'll connect you with Chris and your tickets. All right, thank you.
All right. Well, that
Alrighty.
was fantastic.
Norm,
Chris.
you did very well. And I think you're looking better now, too.
Oh, yeah. That's just because I turned up the light.
You're looking brighter.
Yeah. Don't get me laughing because I'll start
Yeah.
coughing again.
No.
Oh, my gosh. You know what? It's been a long time. I've wanted to get you onto the podcast. I'm glad you came on. And I really do hope that you come back, not in another year, but in a few months, because you're just so full of knowledge.
No. Always available. August, whatever. Let's come back in a couple months.
Yeah. And now that I'm going to Prosper, I've got to check out your workshop, too. That's one of the ones I got to catch.
Yeah. It's
Okay.
myself and Liam McCabe. We're looking forward to it.
Oh, it'll be good. All right. So any other things, contact, anything for people, how to get a hold of you? It is eCommerceChris.com, correct? And
eCommerceChris.com. The contact form is the best way versus direct email to me. I mean, obviously I get my emails, but the contact form, many of us see. So
Oh, there we go. All right. You're awesome, Chris.
thanks, guys.
Okay. We'll see you later. Okay, guys. So I'm going to try to get through this without coughing up too badly. But anyways, on Wednesday, we have a new guest, Rochelle Barron. That's Paul Barron's spouse. And maybe Paul's going to make a guest appearance as well. And we're going to be talking about product opportunity. So that'll be really a great episode. Also, I wanted to give a special thank you to our sponsor, for this episode. Global Wired Advisors, a leading digital investment bank focused on optimizing the business sales process. For more information, please visit globalwiredadvisors.com. And I did that without coughing. Woohoo. All right, Kels.
Alrighty.
Did it without coughing.
There, you jinxed yourself. All right. Well, I hope everyone enjoyed our special bonus Tuesday episode. Probably caught you guys off, like probably weren't expecting it, but yeah, we're happy to do it. Also, if you are interested in joining our community, you can join us at Lunch with Norm, Amazon FBA, and eCommerce Collective. That's where our main community is. That's where the Beard Nation is. And let me see, our Patreon account is up and running. So this is a place where you can go and find guest lessons that we have every month, AMAs. We have a small private group session that we do multiple times a month. Also, we have free services that we offer, some discounts. It's a great place. You can also get an official Lunch with Norm mug and some M&Ms, which is always fantastic. And yeah, we really appreciate everyone spending some time with us this Tuesday. And yes, come join us tomorrow for another episode of Lunch with Norm. And yeah, I think that's it.
Fantastic. All right. So join us every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, unless we have special guests like Chris today at noon Eastern Standard Time. So thank you. Thank you for being part of the community, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Lunch with Norm.